Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. I'm often asked what is the best budget deck for climbing, or what budget decks can I actually use to climb, because my channel features a number of Hearthstone budget decks. And in this video I'm going to go through the best budget decks for Hearthstone Ashes of Outland after the 5th and final nerf patch. And all of these decks are capable of climbing. The best ones are of course much better than the worst ones, but these are the 7 budget decks that I have found that are actually able to climb the ladder. And at number 7 comes the former champion, Druid. Druid used to be really good. It was competing with Demon Hunter for the number 1 slot, and it was far easier to play. Unfortunately, Druid has fallen under rather hard times after Fungal Fortunes was nerfed. Fungal Fortunes now costs 3 mana, and that really messed up with the deck. You no longer have that sweet Fungal Fortunes on 2 into maybe like Coin Overgrowth on 3 and then work your way from there. It's now much clunkier to use those cards, you're slower, aggro has more of a chance to defeat you, and that of course sucks a little bit. However, I played the budget version and it is still a fully capable deck. Just nowhere near as good as it was before, because before I was swinging left and right with it. Now I can still climb with it, but it takes more work, the games are more difficult, there are more close games, close swing turns, and in slower matchups I often need something like a Glowfly Swarm plus Soul of the Forest to turn the tide and go for that final push. Coming in at number 6 is Face Hunter. Hunter is in a peculiar position. Highlander Hunter is currently the best deck in the game, but budget Hunter options have become fewer and fewer. You used to be able to play Midrange Hunter and Dragon Hunter on a budget, but now without Rotnest Drakes, without Stormhammers, even Dragon Hunter isn't that impressive. So currently the only Hunter deck on a budget that is really effective and a good tool to climb is Face Hunter. I had 57% win rate playing this Face Hunter deck after the latest nerfs, and yeah, that's kind of okay. It's not spectacular, but it's still something that you can climb with. Face Hunter of course is fairly one-dimensional. You try to push in that face damage, you try to optimize your damage all the time, you try to take trades only when it's strategically good for you. But if you happen to run out of steam, then the game is over. There's no real comeback mechanic for the deck. Still, it can catch some people unaware, and slower decks, if they just draw a bit of a poor hand, then they're dead before they can stabilize. Coming in at number 5 is budget Galakrond Rogue. Galakrond Rogue didn't care too much about Galakrond being nerfed. Galakrond cards now cost 1 when they are drawn, but that's okay. Everyone else got a little bit slower as well, so 1 cost card is still fine. You don't absolutely have to have that turn 7 Galakrond into an immediately big swing turn. With Galakrond Rogue I have went back to the SI7 plan, just being able to contest Murloc Paladins, these little bit more aggressive decks better. Then the win conditions are Questing Adventures and the Cursed Vagrants. If you can build a big Questing Adventure, that wins you the game. If you get to Cursed Vagrant turn relatively unharmed, then Cursed Vagrant is just really difficult for most deck to handle. Coming in at number 4 is the only newcomer after the 5th balance patch, and that is the Burn Shaman. Shaman is finally viable as a budget deck. It didn't used to be that before, but when other classes got nerfed a little bit and we got the new Transfer Student card, which added a 2-drop, Shaman is really lacking in 2-drop department, then that made this sort of Burn Shaman possible. So you try to take the board early on, you have this Berserker package with Amani Berserkers, Bone Chewer Brawlers, buffs for those. You have Storm's Wrath to buff your minions, so sometimes if you hit the right buff cards and minions you can even just take the board and keep it. And in cases where you can't keep it, then your board has dealt some damage, and then you have stuff like Squall Hunter and some direct damage spells coming, which can end the game. At number 3 is the only control deck that you can currently play on budget, and that would be the Control Galakrond Priest. The main win condition of Control Galakrond Priest is destroying your opponent's will to live, and secondarily you can also have Galakrond, and then Galakrond Hero Power allows you to roll infinite amounts of priest minions, and then those priest minions can just win the game for you. Priest is having a bit of a more hard time now with Hunter being so prevalent, Highlander Hunter being a fairly bad matchup for Priest. I've chosen to add Shadow Madness back into the deck in order to fight against those Hunters. And there is also an Acidic Swamp Ooze here to take some pressure away from those weapons that are coming to your face. And with those changes, and then there's those Rush minions with Apotheosis healing you up, removing some stuff, Priest is still a good contender. At number 2 is a deck that I didn't build myself. This is ugMA2's build. Make asked me to play this deck and I was okay, it looks pretty good. And then I returned back to the deck later on and really started testing it, and this is currently my favorite way to build Zoo deck on a budget. You can build Scrap Imp, Hand of Cooldown Zoo also with charge minions. You can build Galakrond Zoo. Those are okay. You might be able to climb with those even. I think I've rocked something below 50% win rates with those, but this is just far superior and at a similar cost level. Because there's no magic carpet in a budget Zoo deck, then the question is how do you swing the game back if you're losing? And with this deck, there's Graced Netherwing, destroys the board and devours a minion, so far better than putting a Hellfire into that some people also have sometimes done. There's Netherbreaths, they can do some damage, they can also go phase. Then there's Scale Riders. So you have a bunch of these cards from hand that even though you don't have the rush from the magic carpet, you can still affect the board immediately, and then they also double up as late game threats and reach, so that you can just finish games. Overall a very fun take on Zoo. But then the nowadays uncontested number 1 budget deck, Demon Hunter. This is the deck that I finalized my Legend Climb with in July, and it's just phenomenal. This Bonjour Brawler, a Money Berserker, Beaming Sidekick, Guardian Orc Merchant. This early game package puts on so much pressure. I have chosen to include a Cobalt Spellkin also in the budget version now, gives you a little bit more reach. This version I'm still running double I-beams, that allows me to contest aggressive decks better. But the more heavy control meta you're facing, the more you want to put in another Spellkin, cut one of the I-beams for more reach. But if you face more aggro, then double I-beam is better. Overall, throughout Ashes of Outland, I have 75% win rate playing budget tempo Demon Hunter over 150 games. So this archetype is just, it's really strong. And it continues to be so, even after the 5th nerf patch. There might be some other relatively cheap decks that I haven't mentioned here that could also climb. One deck that I haven't tested, for example, would be Murloc Paladin with just the 4 epic cards, but that would still be a 4 epic card aggro deck. So if you want to play aggro, there are far cheaper ways to do that. But be that as it may, there's at least 7 classes and 7 different decks that you can play on a budget and that you can climb the ladder with. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.